first register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Hi there to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television, 6 p.m. in Douala. It's time for the news. Thank you so much for joining us. Our major stories tonight: investigations intensify across Cameroon and even beyond following the disappearance of a 3-day-old baby at the Baptist Hospital in Nkumdum in Yaoundé. The baby was carried away by an unknown individual from the hospital's maternity. It was in the absence of the mother, who gave birth without anybody to assist her, so she stepped out for an errand. Our reporters were at the Baptist Hospital in Yaoundé today, and we'll be telling you more in this edition of the news. Plus, several persons, including the rector of the University of Douala, incurred severe injuries in different road accidents which happened in Puma, Boya, and also in Bamenda over the weekend. The rector of the University of Douala is responding to treatment at the Lakensley Hospital here in Douala. Details of those stories and more in this news edition. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome from the weekend. Thank you so much for the confidence. We begin this edition of the news with this human interest story. At least 2 persons have lost their lives and a host of others injured in accidents which happened over the weekend. One of the accidents included the rector of the University of Douala. He is receiving medical attention at the Lakensley Hospital here in Douala. And now Sumaji Gabriel compares the accident which happened during the weekend in the report which comes up next.
At the city chemist roundabout in Bamenda, a commercial motorcycle rider by name Godlove was killed by a heavy-duty truck. The passenger who survived the accident told us the rider was struggling to see if the truck was coming behind before he jumped out and it crushed him. Godlove was taken to the mortuary by the army rescue officers. A car 8 has died at Awai in the central region. The lorry in which the car 8 was inside mistakenly hit another truck that was stationed on the highway after it witnessed a technical fault but failed to put up a sign along the road. Officials of the University of Douala are patiently praying for their rector, Professor Malgwa Ondwa, who was involved in a ghastly car crash along the National Road number 3 this weekend. A media release from the University of Douala stated that the rector was already out of danger, but admitted at the intensive unit of the Lakentini Hospital. 3 persons are receiving medical attention at a health facility in Boya. The 3 were in a vehicle that ran into another stationed by the roadside around the Great Supermarket, then ended its course in a drainage. Overspeeding has been blamed for the accident. And at the boundary of Yaoundé 4 subdivision and Nkolafamba, precisely at Biteng, road users were trapped on the way after a truck witnessed a brakes failure. The incident occurred in front of the residence of the Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms, Joseph Anderson Lee.
And now let's talk education. After succeeding at the baccalaureate or GCE advanced level, what next? Let's talk about the interest of successful candidates at the just released GCE and baccalaureate examinations across the national territory, with focus on what a successful candidate should pursue and who plays a key role in selecting the student's field of study at the university. Lucy Liengu Esia spoke with a successful candidate, a parent, and also an educationist. She compiled the following in this report.
After months of anticipation and hard work, students across Cameroon are celebrating their success at the just released GCE and the baccalaureate examination for the French subsystem of education. But the question is, what comes next after succeeding? A baccalaureate successful candidate says choosing her next step was a difficult task because she was confused between medicine, teaching and other fields. But at the end, she decided to study medicine at the university, and her decision to study medicine was not influenced by her parents. According to a parent, selecting a field for his child depends on his or her strengths and aptitude. However, an education in Fort Gilbert says the grades and subject of a student at the GC or baccalaureate examination determines what they ought to study in the university.
Students' performance at the ordinary level will greatly influence what they will do in the high school and subsequently in the university. A student that has had, for example, his or her ordinary level with subjects like history, English language, French language, and English literature, that student will do A1. And a student that had subjects like chemistry, physics, biology, that student is good for S3.
He goes further to highlight the essence of orientating a child from the base, which is Form 1.
Orientation of students don't happen when they are already going out of secondary school. It happens from Form 1. Parents have the duty to observe what the children can do best. You must look in the society. See the things that are paying. See the things that can easily bring money to the table. See the things that can easily make you to be self-employed in case the government don't employ you. Look at those particularities.
Deciding on the field of study of every student is a crucial moment as they move forward in their academic journey.
Now we take you to Marua with Immaculate Fogwe. At least a dozen of stolen motorcycles, hard drugs, and other dangerous weapons have been seized by gendarme elements in the course of a patrol carried out in some neighborhoods in Marua. The operation has as objective to stamp out or kick out the high rates of banditry, kidnapping, and other security challenges reported in Marua and the far north region as a whole.
The population of the far north region for several years has been grappling with the problem of rising insecurity. Residents of Wuru, Chede, Mayel, Ibe, Punre, and many other neighborhoods have seen family members, friends, or neighbors killed, others injured, and their goods looted during such attacks. After several calls made by inhabitants denouncing the persistent attacks, elements of the Far North Gendarmerie Legion, under the command of Colonel Joseph Desiré Ngele, engaged a security patrol in some neighborhoods where cases of banditry, kidnapping, and other security challenges have been reported.
We are improving patrol in the Marua town to permit to the people to live in peace in the town. We are trying to bring the gendarme to pedestrian patrol instead of motorized patrol. So they got up on the vehicle, above in the quarter, to interact with the people in the quarter.
In the course of the operation, dozens of stolen motorcycles, hard drugs such as tramadol, cannabis, and other pills were discovered.
I thank them for their collaboration, and I'm telling them that they have to come and tell us all the situation that link with security, and we are going to intervene.
At the end of the patrol mission, the population praised the efforts made by gendarme elements while promising to closely collaborate with them by reporting suspicious cases.
Okay, bonsoir.
And now let's move on to Sisa Beach, where Colonel Ebogo Titus, former commander of the Presidential Guard, has passed away or passed on. That was over the weekend, precisely yesterday. Our reporter Cedric Chakuto in the write-up, which comes up next, paints a portrait of a man who, in 1984, saved President Paul Biya from a coup d'etat.
Colonel Ebogo Titus has passed away in Yaoundé. The former commander of the Presidential Guard played a key role in the history of the Presidential Guard, ensuring the security of the highest authorities in the country. His leadership and courage have always been sources of inspiration for his subordinates and superiors. He left his mark on the Cameroonian military institution. The deceased is one of the military figures who, on April 6, 1984, sweatered the coup d'etat led against the new president Paul Biya by supporters of his predecessor Amadou Ahidjo. Then, he was the commander of the 11th Infantry Battalion of Eboloa, about 160 kilometers from Yaoundé, who had deployed his troops to lend a hand to loyalist forces in the siege of institutions. Titus Ebogo, who was commonly called Mayele K7, will be until 1999 the first commander of the Presidential Guard. His funeral is announced for Friday, August 9 in his native village of Mengang. The former commander of the Presidential Guard dies at the age of 94. He will forever stay in our memories.
We sincerely apologize, viewers. We will be having details of the 3-year-old baby who was stolen at the Baptist Hospital in Yaoundé. That would be at 8 p.m. still on Equinoxe television. Now in news out of the country, Mali has announced that it will be cutting off diplomatic relations with Ukraine after a senior Ukrainian official, according to Bamako, admitted Kyiv's involvement in last week's terrorist attack that caused heavy losses among the Malian army and its Russian allies. And also in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu addressed himself to the protesters, asking a return to peace, a way to dialogue. Let's now have details of the stories with Cedric Chakucho once again.
While his country has been shaken by social discontent for weeks, President Bola Tinubu has broken his silence. The Nigerian president called on Sunday for an end to the demonstrations that he describes as political. The head of state then opened the way to dialogue.
We must stop further bloodshed, violence and destruction. As the president of this country, I must ensure public order in line with the constitutional oath to protect the lives and property of every citizen. Our government will not stand idly by and allow a few with a clear political agenda to tear this nation apart. Under the circumstances, I hereby enjoin protesters and the organizers to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue.
A call for dialogue immediately rejected by the demonstrators. They blame their president for the lack of solutions to their demands. Nigerians are protesting against hard governance and the high cost of living. They have announced new demonstrations this Monday, but the police have promised to crack down without making any lace. According to Amnesty International, since the beginning of the discontent, 9 demonstrators have been killed in clashes with the police, while 4 others have been killed by bomb. This is denied by the Nigerian police. Elsewhere, the Malian government, led since 2020 by a junta, has decided to break off its diplomatic relations with Ukraine with immediate effects. Mali broke off diplomatic relations with Ukraine on Sunday, August 4th, accusing the country of being involved in a heavy defeat of the Malian army and the Wagner group at the end of July in fighting against separatists and jihadists in the north. This defeat is the heaviest suffered in a battle by the Wagner group in Africa. Abdoulaye Maiga denounces in the press release that the government of Mali has learned with deep shock of the subversive remarks by which Andrei Yusov, spokesman for the Ukraine Military Intelligence Agency, confessed Ukraine's involvement in a cowardly, treacherous and barbaric attack by armed terrorist groups that resulted in the death of elements of the Malian defense and security forces. Abdoulaye Maiga goes on by saying that the Malian government considers that these acts violate Mali's sovereignty, go beyond the scope of foreign interference, and constitute support for international terrorism. It will refer the matter to the relevant judicial authorities and take the necessary measures to prevent any destabilization of Mali from African states, particularly from Ukraine embassies located in the sub-region with terrorists disguised as diplomats.
That does it for the first part of the news. Thank you for being with us. Talking Points comes up next. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back, viewers. Tonight we are discussing the Glencore corruption scandal, and our guest tonight is Edmond Kati. He is an economist. Thank you, sir, for being with us today on Talking Points on the news on Equinoxe Television. Now, recently, the officials of SNH, the National Hydrocarbons Corporation, the body with which Glencore had huge deals in the sale of petroleum, say they have filed complaints against the corrupt officials of SNH in the Glencore affair. Now we want to know why now, considering that Barrister Keremuna had been laboring on this corruption scandal for a very long time now, but got very little or no attention from Cameroonian authorities.
That's a question we have been asking ourselves too. When we saw the press release from the general manager of SNH saying that he has actually there is a complaint at the the special court fighting against corruption in Cameroon. He said there's a complaint there, and that he said that he's also expecting to get the names of those involved in all these practices from London, because you know the deal started in London and USA when Glencore admitted that they have used some practices, corruption, to obtain some commodities in West Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Equatorial Guinea, where they revealed the amount that they gave to some official of national corporations to obtain some, some facilities, the reduction, some discount, heavy discount in Cameroon. They are talking about 70% discount on the normal price and 30% of the normal price. So we're still expecting to receive the names of those officials in Cameroon involved, though they admitted, in the court of America in London, that actually they recognize, they acknowledge the fact that they actually use corruption, but they did not reveal the names. So in Cameroon, Keremuna really got involved in this matter because he said, well, SNH and Sonara, I mean, that's the two petroleum company in Cameroon, SNH and Sonara, they refused. They said no, they don't know, actually they don't recognize the corruption within their company. And what really surprised us here is that at the beginning of this affair, when Barrister Keremuna was really putting pressure on Cameroon officials, to really go into this business and then see who are those involved. SNH Director General came out with a press release saying no, they are not involved. These are some practices forbidden in their company, so they got nothing to do with that. So we're surprised that today the same Director General came out with another communique saying that actually they dropped a complaint at the Special Criminal Court, and that the people involved will still face their charges at the court. So we don't know what actually transpired, between the short period of time for them to change their attitude and then come back to this stage.
Now, Edmond, why did Cameroon have to wait for the Serious Fraud Office based in the UK in London precisely to launch investigations? What can be some of the reasons when I talk of we, I'm talking about the Cameroonian authorities, we have been mute on the Glencore corruption scandal?
That's the $1 billion of question we're asking ourselves. I want to recall that when Glencore admitted, this type of practices, poor practices at the court of, before the court of USA and London, when they admitted, what they did, what the court of America did is that there was some provision, because they said they have to pay some penalties, to the countries. We don't know. The only thing that Cameroon, and not only Cameroon, but all the countries, all the countries where this thing happened, the only thing they got to do was actually to file a complaint and then benefit from these funds that was made available by Glencore to actually indemnify those countries affected by their corruption. So we were expecting Cameroon officials to really, fast forward the process in, filing this complaint and then get the, benefit from these funds. But it was kind of, nobody wanted to take any action. Some people say we're waiting for the President of the Republic, to the head of state, to actually, say something, and then we're also waiting for the Director General of SNH, we're waiting for the Director General of Sonara. some say we're waiting for the Secretary General at the presidency. We're waiting for a lot of people, but no action was taken so far. The only person really concerned by this matter in Cameroon was Barrister Akeremu. Now, unfortunately, he's not the right guy, to take action and bring people to the court. So we don't know why Cameroon has to wait for external institutions to carry out investigation. Meanwhile, we have the ability, we have the skills, we have everything it takes, to actually take an action and know what happened, what transpired, and who are the people involved, and then benefit from the funds that has been made available by Glencore to actually indemnify the countries who actually suffer from their bad practices.
Now, Cameroonians in London, talking about the efforts put in place by Barrister Akeremu, he has called on Cameroonians in London in his response to the communique of the SNH that they should protest to the Attorney General's office in London for those involved in the Glencore affair to be brought to book. Can that move push the authorities in Cameroon to act? Can it lead to, or can it give us some positive results?
Bear fruit, because those countries, we are talking of UK. They are very sensitive when it comes to this type of matter. They are very sensitive. So if there's actually an action, a protest, there, by the diaspora of Cameroon in London, it can really have an impact. It can push the London authorities to really, go deeply, to go further into the matter. I think it can help to move forward into this issue. But do we need these type of things when we have Cameroon authorities who can actually take action, who can actually do something, not only to know who actually was involved? Because the problem now in Cameroon is, so far, we don't know. They are saying some, officials took money. They are talking of 8 billion CFA. Who are the people, within SNH, within Sonara, be at the presidency, who actually collected this money? That's the first point. We got to know who actually did what, within this process from A to Z. Who did what? Who collected the money? How much they collected? We don't need extra institution from abroad to actually get this information. These are information we can get in Cameroon. It's simple. If the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, sees the institution abroad to tell them, okay, we want to know what happened, what transpired between Glencore and our official. I want to know who are the people involved. If they write, a letter to these guys in London, I'm sure they will be responded and they will give them the name of those. So we don't know why nobody in Cameroon want to take action. I think the last guy, the last person to really take action is the president of the republic, the head of state. Because we don't know why the director of SNH does not want to do that. We don't know why the director of Sonara does not want to do that. Are they involved? Nobody knows. So I think it remains now the president of the republic to do something so that we should know what actually transpired between Glencore and Cameroon.
And now, Mr. Edmond, my last but one question. What do Cameroonians as a whole or the state stand to gain if these corrupt practices are exposed and those who are corrupt, the corrupt officials, are actually prosecuted in court? What do we stand to gain?
We got a lot to benefit. We don't know what Cameroon is missing. You don't know what is happening. We are talking of the petrol of Cameroon, and we are saying that people actually receive money to make a discount of 70% of the normal price in the market. Do you know when they reduce 70% on the price of the commodities in the market? And we're talking of exportation operations. That's where Cameroon is really, making a lot of money to face his financial challenges abroad. And people accepted corruption
to make a discount of 70% out of the normal price in the market. Can you imagine, what Cameroon is actually, what can be the consequence on the Cameroon, balance in all these operations? So if we don't know who actually did what, then we cannot stop this type of poor practices within our corporations. So it is very important for Cameroon to actually know who did what happened, to stop it, to fight against it. Because if we know who did what, then these people cannot continue to serve within these companies. They cannot continue to serve, because if they have done it once, definitely they will do it again. Maybe not with Glencore, but with other companies as well. So we have to know who did what. We cannot be having very sensitive corporations like SNH, like Sonara, and then we are having people with very poor mentality who will be accepting corruption to make Cameroon, losing a lot of money within the process of our oil transactions. So it is very important for Cameroon to know what really transpired between the officials, between Glencore and Cameroon officials, to put an end to this type of practices, to put an end to the function of all these officials who are actually in these companies. So I think if nothing is done, we will accept that it is a normal attitude accepted officially by Cameroon, because what we expected, Equatorial Guinea already took action, Nigeria took action. Why is Cameroon not taking action actually to clarify the situation and know who did what within this transaction?
Hopefully justice is done, Mr. Edmond. Now my last question is on something else. It is on the Kobag versus the State of Cameroon war of communique, let's call it like that. As we know, the State of Cameroon has been insisting that money kept in banks which have not been claimed by individuals for a long time, maybe they are dead or so, should be transferred to the state coffers. And Kobag, on the other hand, says no, there is a procedure that needs to be followed. What can be the main reason behind these differences? Is there any conflict of interest somewhere, Mr. Edmond?
Well, I would not place the conflict of interest, because if you read the last correspondence from the Secretary General of the Presidency, he was trying to oppose Cameroon rules, which is sovereign rules, against regional rules. Which actually we know that our banking system is being under regional rules. So Kobag is in its mission to make sure that the banking system of Cameroon, the banking system of the sub-region, CEMAC sub-region, should not be affected by some decisions taken by a particular country. When Cameroon decided to actually get all the banks to transfer all these funds, we call them sleeping funds, in the banks, funds that are actually not claimed by any owner. The owner have not been claiming this fund for a long period of time. So actually they have to be transferred to the SEDEC. So we saying it is normal, but it's not properly done. And if you read the first communique of Kobag, they said that the rules are not really clear for Cameroon to do this type of transaction. They didn't say Cameroon should not do it, but they said for the moment the rules, to manage these funds, to keep these funds are not really defined for Cameroon to get involved in this type of transaction. So I think that instead of Cameroon fighting Kobag, going backward, forward with Kobag, fighting through communiques and things like that, press release today and tomorrow, I think Cameroon just need to go with Kobag and tell them, okay, we need to really define the rules, the normal rules to manage these funds, so that everybody should feel at it. Because Cameroon banking system is not only managing Cameroon funds. You got many people in the country, in the sub-region country, keeping their money in Cameroon banks. So if there's a problem, the Kobag should be responsible for that. So I think Kobag is playing their role. They are in their mission to make sure they protect the banking system in the sub-region. So I don't see why Cameroon officials should be against that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edmond Kouyaté, for making time to talk with us on Equinoxe Television. Hope to have you some other time as usual. Viewers, we thank you so much for being there. That does it for this edition of the news. But don't go away, our programs continue. Equinoxe live from Yaoundé at 7 p.m. and the news in the French language at 8 p.m. with Julian Bedbisai. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now and see you tomorrow, God willing.